Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Modern Engineers, playthrough where we follow modern practices and rules to build in space engineers. I do hope you all had a good weekend and all that stuff. I will be trying to put this out. This will be the second episode. Looks like we need to put a ramp in. So we're gonna try and knock some tasks out today. If you were watching last time, you noticed that we had an issue placing down machines, and it looks like that issue's still persisting. Yeah, I still can't put down vital machines that I need to be able to continue work, like the plate stamp over here on the cargo vessel. So, or the pipe extruder, which is the only way outside of a workbench to produce small steel tubes and large steel tubes. So, I've come up with a solution on how to fix that. It does involve this pier, and we're going to have to renovate this pier to have a crane. We're going to not disassemble the machines, and we're just going to move them and weld them to the base using the welding pads mod. And for the other machines, I am going to go into a different playthrough, and I'm going to build the machines and basically have them on a projector, or possibly load them onto a barge that should be arriving in the upcoming episodes. Because this is not the whole fleet. No. This is only a part of it, and we are definitely going to have to build a loading crane. It does look like that this pier is an odd... Yeah, it is an odd number of blocks. So... No, it's an even number. Shit. Okay, so we're going to have to refit this pier to include the larger scale, which will also mean removing these lamps, because we'll have to put in a track for the crane. I have an idea for the crane. It's going to be based off of the hammerhead crane design, at least, basically locally used in shipyards. It does, unfortunately, mean that this pier is going to get a lot harder to transverse, so we're going to have to make some adjustments and changes for that. But we're not going to start there right now. In fact, we're going to go ahead and head over to our unfinished building, and I'm going to meet you there. Alright, welcome to the unfinished headquarters. This building is the headquarters for my faction, and as you can tell, I'm a shipbuilder. I'm going to put that very plainly. So I struggle when it comes to building buildings. This entire building was designed to be a mission operations center and headquarters for my offices and research and development. So we're going to work on 2 rooms today. We're going to try and finish out this room, which is our research and development area. We're going to refit this room to be a small vehicle development area, because for upcoming projects, we're going to need some submersibles. And I needed a large space that's sheltered and can build those submersibles. So we're going to go ahead and get started and finish this room, and then we're going to finish an office up here for yours truly to overlook the shipyard and kind of get a sense of we're basically going to make this our operations center to kind of like just for production and building, what tasks and to-do lists that we're going to need to do and finish. Over in the other side of the building, we'll finish up those later as more ships arrive and the need for an operations center becomes more apparent. Okay, so I speed this up real quick because I don't want you guys to have to sit through and watch as I go through building a building again. So the whole point of the operations center is going to be overall fleet control and, the typical stuff like that. I am going to expand this to more than just my room, and I'll show you guys circuit setup and stuff like that. But the reality is, with the machines having issues, it's going to be difficult to really keep building what we need to build. And I really think that it's going to be solved hopefully soon, and we'll be able to continue work. That being said, the future of these missions are going to really depend on, well, the future of these machines at least. I do have a couple of vehicles that I'm going to have to build. Like, for example, I'm going to need a couple of trucks. I'm going to need a forklift. I'm going to need a few other vehicles because I'm still unsure whether or not I should bring the vehicles over that I used in my last save as well. I do think that making me build them is probably safer. The original plan was that if areas that were worked, that I was going to be able to build out, purchase vehicles that I needed because I had quite a decent amount of money. It was going to be the same way with food. I wanted to purchase and do more trading rather than just building. But as it stands, this areas at war still doesn't work. But we're gonna get through it and we'll figure it out. The main issue though is going to be fuel, and I'm kind of curious to what you guys think, if any of you are interested really, on how I should go about solving this. The issue is that I use hydrogen as the main fuel source, and I really don't like using hydrogen as the main fuel source because, well, it's infinite essentially. Now, I will admit that the ships eat more hydrogen than at full power than they do when they're sitting idle, so it does kind of balance itself out that it does need tanks and hydrogen fuel and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious on how we can balance this out to make it, playable, that I'm not constantly just using water around me. I was thinking about adding a mod that took away the hydrogen fuel and then just making a hydrogen plant that took the water around and made fuel out of it, and then I had to use the refueling pier or a barge to fuel my ships before they went out to sea. I think that'd be a good little challenge in figuring it out and how I was gonna fix that. The other thing I was thinking about was expanding the other base to include this refinery or refueling barge, mostly just because we're eventually going to be burning oil and we'll need a way to refine fuels in general. So I think it'd be pretty important to develop that barge, or at least that system. And I think that'd be a good idea. But I also know that we're going to eventually have to figure out food here because, I just don't have any food resources. I'm still using what's left of the food at the base. I do think that if we did make a refinery or a barge on the other side of the base that did this, we would probably have to look into investing into a new power plant, possibly one that ran off of fuel instead of the 40 megawatt generators that I have running currently right now. But most of the things in the base are flexible. Alright, so like I said, we're kind of running out of building materials, so it's getting a little bit more difficult to build in here. But we do have our displays up, and these are going to be our task boards. So we're going to start with this one. I'm going to go ahead and set these to text and images. This one is going to be naval operations. This one is going to be infrastructure operations. And this last one operation. Okay, so basically these tasks are this is going to be our to-do boards and kind of what we need to do. For this one, it's going to be our next main goal. So we're going to start with this one. This one is going to be Operation Shale. Uh, this is going to be our um, oil task to get oil. So these are the operation tasks that I wrote down. So they're pretty basic. This is going to involve like this is going to be the overall goal by the end of like the month. I say skeptically. So basically, our first part of this phase, anything that we do, we're going to be building toward this goal. So for the example, phase one, we need to survey the oil deposit, which should be in that direction. Reminds me, I should definitely get a map in here. It should be in that direction, and we'll use the Sertrel to do that and some submersibles. Next, we'll have to build a lot of submersibles, either remotely operated, and we'll need a manned one as well, because we're going to have to build stuff under the water to install a wellhead. Next, phase two is going to be to build the rig. I actually think what we're going to do is we're going to split this dry dock, and we'll basically put we'll find out how long this player is going to build his ship. We're going to put a wall, a retaining wall, and then we're going to build the rig in the last part of the dry dock, and hopefully rush to finish it before he finishes his cutter. And then this is going to be a static rig, or at least a very well secured rig. We can always move it later, but we're going to have to install pylons as well in the operation area so that we can secure the rig to it. Next, we're going to basically install the rig on top of the pylons, and then we'll have to get a tanker and a refinery built in order to, collect oil. We'll move on to these. So, naval operations. We do have some tasks coming up, so let's go ahead and get those ready. So, for naval operations, so here's our list. We have the battleship arriving today, so that is going to happen today, and I will time-lapse that, but we are going to get our battleship today. The issue that we're going to run into is that we have to offload her ammunition. She is carrying all the ammunition that and gunpowder that was used in the munitions lockers. She's also carrying all of our money from the last save as well. So we're going to have to make sure that she gets here and she's going to be safe. The issue is that I don't have anywhere to store most of these things. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get these things built. That'll be on this list. So we're going to stop that here for a second because I need to think about other things as well. So this is going to be kind of just our base and general infrastructure. So we need to install a pier crane for the fitting out pier. We're going to have some troubles with that with the lack of resources. We're going to have to focus on food systems in the future because I am eating what's left over of the food from the old base, and that was detached. So I am not taking any other buildings that were attached, that were detached from the base. So all of my food resources, those are gone completely. So we're going to have to figure that out as well. And then we're going to have to figure out our ammo storage, and we're going to have to do facility machines and possibly a warehouse. And one of our next tasks is going to be to build a barge for dredging out the harbor. As you can see, there's some issues with that. I'm going to get a navigation screen up in here for a map. Do I have aluminum plates? I do not. So let me go grab those. We'll make sure that we put in windows and stuff once we sort out the thing. I just can't afford to waste the materials. We also need computers, construction components. I have construction components, computers, radio components, and that's another thing as well. I don't think I have the capability to make displays. So we're gonna have to um, be mindful of how many displays we're also going through. We're gonna put that right here, actually, just so that we kind of have an emphasis. We'll zoom in to our local operations area. Okay, I'm actually using this for the first time. So, excuse me when I experiment a little bit. I didn't know there were fishing zones, so we might have to look into that. I don't know if they work yet either, so. Oh, okay, so that's good to know. We're gonna have to refresh this, I'm assuming. Anyway, so about here is where allegedly oil is. So we're gonna have to do some operations there. There's also allegedly iron in this area, so we're gonna have to set up an iron mine over here because one of the main resources that ships eat a lot of is steel. So we're gonna have to definitely get this sort of figured out. It's probably gonna involve a lot of inland barges and freighters and stuff like that. So we'll focus on that next. We'll have to focus on that in the near future. I think next what we're going to do is get the battleship arrived. So, excuse me while I do that. Alright, so I did find a solution finally to the lack of machines. So, it turns out there is a research extension mod that had a tech tree that we had to follow, and it wasn't really working. So, the good news is, if we type extruder here, there's the pipe extruder. So I'm going to go ahead and start finishing the offload of that ship and get these machines installed. Okay, so yeah, as you can tell that the machines being the bigger component of why I needed all this stuff, I'm still a little bit hesitant on keeping them, all these machines in the same building. I think maybe it'd be a good idea to make a larger, more manufacturing style floor. I guess we'll really tell. It's just really convenient to have all these machines right next to the dry docks and piers because all these components go straight into the boats. The only real issue is going to be more of a hassle when it comes to larger ships and stuff like that have to be fixed on the other side of the base. It does kind of mean that the ships are going to have to kind of be moved over here when they're being worked on, which kind of makes sense because it is a shipyard. I think it is important, though, that the kind of a good idea to separate machines from in buildings. I also did experiment with that new life support mod. I was slightly disappointed to find out that it wasn't actually water you're generating, unfortunately, and it seemed to have issues I wasn't too happy with. Like, you can't really see whether or not when you're hungry, and it took away a lot of the HUD, and you'd see me flickering with it. I wasn't really happy with it. I just want a simple life support mod that allows me to eat, drink, and sleep, that doesn't mess with the game base health system all that much. I like the water filtration system, but I also don't like spending iron to make water, especially when that's a primary resource for warships. But we'll see what happens next. Alright, so looks like got all my machines back where they're supposed to be, thankfully. As you can see, the cargo ship is a little bit lower now. Most of the cargo that was on board was just machines. So I'm kind of glad that that's being handled and taken care of. I was really worried that I was going to have to figure it out. We're still going to build a loading crane on this pier because why not? I would still like to kind of keep that mindset in modern engineering and unloading. These containers would be a lot easier to unload if I didn't have to unload them by hand. And these are the cheapest containers I can build. So we're going to move on to our next task here.